Welcome to the Kings Beat podcast. I am James Ham, your Kings insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. Joining me, ABC 10's Sean Cunningham. Sean, this is a scheduled emergency pod.
Are you
right?
okay? Are you all right?
I'm all right. You all right?
I'm doing okay.
I'm all right.
I think so. I think we're doing okay. I burnt some toast earlier today.
That's okay.
My fire alarm did go off. I will say that. That's actually true, by the way.
All right.
But emergency podcast. I think I know why.
Yeah. We got a little bit of news. Okay, so first and foremost, if you're watching on YouTube, just stop what you're doing right now. Hit the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. Let's do this. Let's start bolstering this thing. We're already halfway to our goal of 1,000 subscribers, but we need to get there quickly. Number two, if you're not already a subscriber to the Kings Beat, you should be. Down below in the description, you'll find links to subscribe. You'll find links to do a premium subscription. You need to get on board with that because the happy hour is coming, and you need to support good content, local content here in Sacramento. So let's get to it. The Sacramento Kings, we have confirmed, have traded De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Tristan Thompson.
De'Aaron Fox?
Oh, my goodness.
Oh,
let's back that up.
Oh, boy.
Yeesh, I just freaked everyone out.
I thought I got my report wrong.
The Sacramento Kings have traded Tyrese Haliburton, Buddy Hield, Tristan Thompson to the Indiana Pacers for Domantas Sabonis, Justin Holiday, Jeremy Lamb, and a 2027 second-round pick. The deal is done from everything that I've been told. They have not announced a deal yet, but it is all but done. Tyrese Haliburton is no longer a Sacramento King, and Sean, the fans are freaking out all over the place. Freaking out.
I mean, Twitter's freaking out. Some people are freaking out. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that are excited. I understand one way or the other. To me, it's a trade that it's so funny how many times you hear people do anything, make a trade, addition by subtraction, do whatever you do, and then they do it, and then wait, what? I mean, I have reservations about the trade, but man, you just landed this is the way. I mean, I'm not. Again, I said this in a tweet. I'm not trying to spin anything.
Yeah.
But you just landed a legit all-star for one player that you really, truly cared about that fell to you in a draft a little over a year ago, almost 2 years ago, at the 12th pick.
Yep.
And you turned him, because that's the most prized possession of the trade, at least from a Sacramento standpoint, moving him, the one you truly valued, to Indiana for Domantas Sabonis, a legit all-star. A guy you traded who may never be an all-star. He might. He certainly could be. But I digress. I mean,
Sean's phone
I get it.
is literally...
It is, and it's really... I almost have to take it, but I'm not going to, James. I'm not going to. I will soon, though.
All right, yeah. This is wild. I mean, it's a huge trade for the Sacramento Kings. And I was just on with D'Lo and Casey, and I broke down some of what I believe to be true. Look, these trades never feel good at all. I think every once in a while you're like, oh, thank you. I can't believe that happened. There is a little bit of that in this trade because I'm just going to be honest, Sean. There is addition by subtraction with regards to Buddy Hield. The fact that Buddy Hield is no longer a member of the Sacramento Kings, I believe, is a very good thing for a lot of people. I think it's a very good thing for the franchise itself. I think that while he hasn't just been like the worst teammate and I think there is enough to understand that like him wanting to not be there had become a problem, and it became a problem before this season, and it became a problem coming into this season, and I think it's something that has festered, and I don't think he's been good on the court. I think that the Kings are a better team when he's not on the court, but you almost have to play him to keep his value where it is. Look, I think that this is, as far as that component of this, is a good thing. I think losing Tyrese Haliburton it's such a hard thing for fans, and even look, for us, he's been the
Well,
biggest breath of fresh air we've ever had.
James, I
Yeah.
mean, that's selfishly for us in the media. We just lost a media game Hall of Famer,
Yep.
and probably among the best to ever do it. I mean, that he's that good when it comes to dealing with him in the media. Boy, that's the tough part for me. But
Yeah.
from a basketball player standpoint, I get it also. Elite playmaking already, and a guy who you had control of at no money for 4 years. I get that.
Yeah.
But it's going to take something to land an all-star, and I can't believe they did it without having to move any of the first-round picks. That, to me, is incredible. Like, I am literally baffled by that, because we were talking about it at this podcast, like, all the stuff. I mean, how about that, James? Of all the pieces that Indiana, I know the trade deadline isn't over yet, but they still have Miles Turner. I didn't think Sabonis would be traded. I really did not think Sabonis would go out the door, and I thought it would cost more than this. I really did, James. I thought it would cost more than this to land Domantas Sabonis, and it didn't.
Okay, so I'm going to take that. I thought that whatever Ben Simmons was going to get, whatever you got for Ben Simmons, is sort of what you're going to get for Sabonis. Young player, multiple first-round picks. It's not what happened.
That's not what happened.
I'm stunned. I'm going to dispel. There's a rumor going out there that that Justin Holiday is not vaccinated. I think that could be true, that Justin Holiday is not vaccinated. But the rumor going around is that because Justin Holiday is unvaccinated, he cannot play for the Sacramento Kings at their home games.
He can play for Sacramento Kings, yeah.
He can play. There's no question. The Kings currently have at least one player. Maybe I think it's actually, at this point, it's two that are unvaccinated. And I'm not going to out people. That's their own public thing. That's their own private thing. But they do have two players that are unvaccinated at this point, and maybe a third. But that
it was at one time 3.
Yeah, it was at 1.3.
I don't know if it is anymore, but
yeah, I think that there was a half vaccinated player, if that makes sense. Someone who had got their first shot but not their second shot before getting the virus. So look.
But this is not New York. Sacramento has different rules and regulations.
Golden State. It's not San Francisco. In San Francisco, you're right. If he's a home player, he cannot play. Visiting players can play that are unvaccinated. So Kyrie Irving can play anywhere. And in Sacramento, do the Kings have a policy that all employees are to be vaccinated? Yes. Does the NBA player fit into all employees? No, it does not. It does not. Because contractually and through the players union, there's no way to force a player. As an employer, if an employee does not want to get vaccinated, you can say, look, but I'm terminating you. Because you're not under a long-term contract with X amount of dollars owed and everything else. Okay, so going to dispel that rumor. We'll get to the other players that are coming over outside of Sabonis, the other players here in a minute. But like what we were talking about, there's something special about Tyrese Haliburton when it comes to talking to the media. Even when whatever he is to the media, you see it on the court as well. He's like a crazy creative communicator, even if it's with his basketball skills. You see it. And I think that he is a player that I believe can be really special in the league. Is he going to be a Hall of Famer, or is he going to be a multi-time All-Star? We don't know that. I would say that he probably at this point has as close to a good a shot to being that as De'Aaron Fox does. And it's possible that neither of them ever reach that plateau, and it's also possible that Ty does and De'Aaron doesn't, and it's possible that Domantas Sabonis never reaches that status ever again, and you traded for a guy who was a 2-time All-Star but is no longer a 2-time All-Star. I mean, is no longer an All-Star level player. I should say he's no longer an All-Star. I think what you're getting from Sabonis is an All-Star level player, whether he is an all-star or not.
Right.
Just like look at what he does. And Sean, I think we should start there. Like Sabonis, just the raw stats are nuts. Like this is an incredible player who checks almost every box that you need as a King, except for maybe one. He's not like an elite level defender. He's a good position defender. He's not an elite like help defender or a shot blocker. But we're talking about a guy who averages right around 19 points, right around 12 rebounds, right around 5 assists. Last season, those numbers were much better than that. But he, if I'm not mistaken, he just won a Player of the Week not too long ago, like last week, like the week before. This is a dude who, number one, fixes your rebounding problem. He can play the 4 or the 5. He fixes your inability to grab a rebound and initiate a fast break, which this team clearly has. They don't have a passing big man at all. He's a player that De'Aaron Fox can play off of, as far as like in a pick and roll situation. He's not a lob threat, but he's a different type of big man that you can play through. And Sean, like if there were if there was a player outside of maybe Ben Simmons that I really liked, I've talked about this forever. It's Sabonis. When he was available, potentially available last summer, like I was all over it. And then I did some more digging into it and found out he really wasn't available. But what do you like? What do you not like about Sabonis?
What I love is he's a double-double machine.
Yep.
The one thing I do have concerns about his rebounding coming to Sacramento, because I feel like he's going to be a better rebounder in Indiana than in Sacramento. And what I mean by that is I think he's going to miss Miles Turner quite a bit. I feel like Miles Turner created a lot of opportunity for him. However, and I would say I'm a little nervous if they don't move Rashawn Holmes. I am a little nervous with that pairing. It seems a little weird to me. So just in the immediate, those are some concerns. But walking double-double, I mean, this guy is a elite playmaker. You just lost an elite playmaker, and you just gained an elite playmaker, which is odd because it's just a different position. A true center and somebody who's absolutely able to check a lot of boxes for Sacramento. Some would call his stats a little shallow or hollow or whatever adjectives you want to use. But I feel like he's a player that offers a lot of intangibles. He has star quality, and to me, when you look at the double doubles, just speak for itself. He's going to be the most talented player that De'Aaron Fox has ever played with at the pro level, and a guy with double doubles that's only behind Nikola Jokic and Rudy Gobert, and those guys, one is a MVP, and the other one has been in the MVP conversation for the past 2 years. So I like it. I'm not saying you're getting an MVP, but those are certainly what leap off the page. I mean, it's like having a better version of Vlade Divac in his prime. You have a much better it's like having, I don't want to call him Chris Webber because he doesn't have that athleticism, but it's like having a much better Vlade Divac.
That makes sense.
25 years old, yeah.
At 25 years old, that makes sense to me. A much better Vlade Divac. And look, I'll caveat all of this with, I don't think the Kings are done.
Nope.
I know they're not done. and that tells me that like De'Aaron Fox, we can talk about the pairing of Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, but really we can't because we're not sure. We're not sure that Fox will be here after Thursday. I think he will be here, but I'll say this, Sean. If you were going to find a player that could utilize the skill set of De'Aaron Fox the best, this is probably it. I think that Jokic is a guy that plays better with 3-point shooters, with true floor spacers. He's a guy that eats up so much space in the key. But I think Sabonis' ability to play the high post, it has the potential to unlock De'Aaron Fox. Now, how I look at it is I don't think that Sabonis is a legit number one, like on a good playoff team. I think he's a really good player, but I don't think he's a star level number one that everyone goes, okay, that's your lead option. I think that he has the potential to take De'Aaron Fox from a number 2/3 option and potentially make him into a number one option because of the way that Fox and him will be able to play off each other. And so that's one thing that really excites me, his ability to hit a cutter, to set a screen. Right now the Kings have this they have bigs that really they're so limited in what they can do as passers. They can set a screen and roll to the basket, and that's about it. What they can't do is take a ball, have a point guard run by them, and make a pass to that point guard cutting to the rim. And so I think that if you're able to use these guys the right way, that there's an opportunity for Sabonis to be the key to unlocking De'Aaron Fox and really him reaching his potential. Maybe I'm wrong. You're not going to be able to. He's not going to be the guy who's going to be leading the break. You still need a rim running four that can block shots. You still need additional players, but I think he's going to be a guy who grabs rebounds and fires them out to Fox and Davion or whoever else is out there flanking down the sides and getting the ball out. And the Kings just don't have that. They don't have it right now.
And I like the fact that, we are talking about what he does well, and there are some obviously deficiencies, but I think, they've got a lot of work to do. This team is not yet done. You mentioned, James, that the trade deadline is still 2 days away as we record this. So there's ample opportunity. And again, maybe it doesn't happen right now, but the offseason is going to be very crucial because you have to build around us. When you have Domantas Sabonis, you have to build around him in a certain way. And if that includes De'Aaron Fox, you need to know that really quickly. So I think you'll have a little over 20 games remaining in the season if you keep De'Aaron Fox at this deadline to kind of see what that looks like. However, and we know what this front office thinks about small sample sizes. However, you're just going to, it's not quite there yet. But the thing that's encouraging to me is they're not wanting to, and again, encouraging in a sense that I know how fans are. They're impatient. They feel like they've already, say what you will, they've reset the button so many times that you could argue they didn't do it the right way. But I've been saying it for weeks on this podcast, James, and you have too, like this, there's just no stomach, I think, for the majority of the fan base to go through a hard reset. And he's under contract for the next 2 years. I know it's not the 4 that Tyrese is, but this is a moment to try to make something happen in the immediacy. And he's definitely the big spearheaded figurehead in the core of the team. And we talked about that this core needed a shakeup. It got a shakeup, and it got a shakeup in a different way that we thought, where they still keep their assets and they still have very attractive assets to throw out of town. And to say that this wasn't expected would be a lie, because look, we expected everybody to be on the table. I said, I made the argument. That's why it pays to listen to this podcast, because I made the argument that Tyrese Haliburton, while I'd be inclined not to trade him, doesn't mean I would not trade him. And I said that his value, you could argue, would never be higher than it is now. A low contract with 4 years remaining. And obviously Indiana felt that way, right? But it kind of got surprising yesterday, in the wake of yesterday, because of the rising stars and the availability of talking to Davion and Tyrese Haliburton about being able to represent the team at the Rising Stars Challenge, because the team was finally saying, hey, this is the time to do it, and we'll get it done. And I said, well, what about the trade deadline?
What about the trade deadline?
So, yeah.
Let's set the stage with that. So on Saturday night, we left the game, and before we left, media relations came in and said, look, we're going to get we got 2 days off here. We're going to take Sunday off. On Monday, we're going to get you Davion. We're going to get you Ty to talk about the Rising Stars, because the Kings play back-to-back against Minnesota, and then they take off on a road trip, and then the All-Star break happens, and then they're still on a road trip after the All-Star break, and so they're gone for like 8 games plus a week of the All-Star break. So we're not going to see this team for a long time. We might not even see Sabonis before he might walk in the building, but we probably won't see him on the floor in the next 2 games. And so basically, media relations was like, hey, we're going to get you these guys so you guys have content for when it does have for All-Star weekend. So Sean and I, we showed up yesterday, and it was fun. Sean, you got a one-on-one with these guys, and I think that's what is it that you took away from that?
Well, first of all, if you get to see the interview, I'm going to post it later today. I posted a little snippet that we're going to be able to play here in a minute. And it was fun, man. Fast forward just to the end real quick, because I literally get up and I tell my photographer and Kevin John, who I work with, and I'm like, man, just don't trade these guys. Because not because I'm rooting for them to stay for the Kings, because I just did an interview that I'm planning on pulling a feature out of to promote the fact that they're in the Rising Stars Challenge and they're going to be facing off with one another on opposing teams because of the gimmicky challenge. I just said, now don't trade these guys. Now don't trade these guys for my own story purposes, selfishly, because it'll make my story completely useless, which it is. And so that's just the risk you run in doing this. So I think the interview I'll be able to post the interview later today in its entirety. People, I think, can have some fun with it. But the thing that stood out was these two guys are ultra competitive, have a really quirky dynamic. Davion, if you've heard him in interviews before, he can be rather stoic. He doesn't speak a lot. He's a little shy. He's a little timid. He chooses his words wisely. He's still new to all this. Ty is the opposite. He'll talk more than James and I combined. He's always talking. He's got opinions. He's the ultimate teammate. He, lifts guys up, but he's competitive. And they're talking about the competition of the Rising Stars Challenge, which Davion comes in and says, I'm going to foul out of that game. I'm going to foul out of that game because I want people to know I play hard. And then they're having this back. Literally, I didn't have to do much at all, James. I sat there. I would maybe instigate some moments where they're just kind of going back and forth. It's hysterical. It was absolutely funny. So if you're someone who's really sad to see Tyrese go, this isn't going to help you. You're going to be this is going to make you miss him a hell of a lot more. But it's a 25-minute interview of these guys just absolutely having a ball with one another. And you won't get this in this clip that we're going to play, but I do want to say it here because I'll forget if I don't. But I asked them in practices, because obviously they were playing in a time with no De'Aaron Fox out with this ankle injury, and it created ample opportunity for them to play along each other. And I said, how much time in practices, scrimmages, before the season, whatever, how much time do you guys spend as teammates as opposed versus you guys as opposition, where you're going up against each other all the time? Obviously, Tyrese with the first team, Davion with the second team. And they say we almost are never paired together. And I thought that was interesting. I'm like, is that by design? And he said, and so this gave him that moment. And what do you see? You see Davion go off for a career high against the Warriors. You see Tyrese go off for a career high in assists against Oklahoma City in a game that he still didn't think he played well, right? I mean,
yeah.
So you have these moments where you could kind of see what was going. And by the way, when I tweeted out, if you saw the pictures I did, and I said coming soon, I was not referring to them as being the starting tandem backcourt of the Sacramento Kings for years to come, as some people took that and kind of ran with it. I was talking about, I've got a feature of this really cool interview that you guys are going to love. And so I was just literally just teasing it. Like, if you're a Kings fan, even if you're an NBA fan, I mean, when you hear just the dynamic between these two guys, it's really fun. It's a fun interview in a season that had nothing. And these are the brightest moments. Joy. Yeah, and you're talking about where the Kings are right before the dread line. How about that? Let's call it the dread line. Yeah. The NBA trade dread line. And you just see the joy among these guys, and it's really super fun. And James, if you wanna fire it off right now, man, go for it.
Let's hit it.
Together.
But you're destined to probably face off at some point, right?
Yeah.
That's the plan.
How much you look forward to that?
I'm really looking forward to it. Because we've been talking about this for a minute, and I'm really going to foul out that game.
I'm scoring.
Some people may hear that, and they're like, Davion just wants to get foul out real quick so he doesn't have to play. Would that be accurate?
No, not at all. Not at all. I was just playing when I say foul out, but I'm really going to be playing hard, though.
Right.
Like, that's my goal, just to be the hardest playing player out there right now.
Come on, bro. What are we doing? Like, what are we talking about? You told me the hardest, like, it's an all-star game.
I want people to know, like, yo, he's really playing hard.
But we all know that already. Like, there's not one person out who's coming out there like, yeah, Davion, like, I don't know how hard, like, they know you play hard.
Well,
I mean, you called off night for a reason, right?
Hey, come on, bro.
Why would I be different than what I am
Like,
now?
so if you see me on a fast break by myself, you gonna try to run me down and block it?
Do I do
like,
that?
Like,
do I do that now?
Huh?
Do I do that?
Yes.
No, I don't.
I've seen you chase somebody down. And steal it, not block it.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, like, you playing like it's life or death. It's an all-star game.
If we in the championship game?
If we change the game, I'm playing hard. I'm trying to win.
Okay.
But like,
if we're not going to play each other first, probably not.
I don't know. If we do,
I mean, I'm still trying to win that game though.
I'm trying to win too, but I'm not gonna.
I'm not letting you dunk if that's what you're asking me. I'm not gonna let you dunk.
You're not gonna have a choice.
No, I'm not. I'm really gonna run so fast that you're gonna have to slow step to lay the ball up.
I'm gonna drop it off, and somebody's gonna punch on your team. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
I think honestly, my whole team is gonna play hard because our coach is Gary Payton. So it's like we all gonna be playing really hard anyway. So I can't be the one guy to be like, I'm not really gonna play this. I'm gonna let him dunk that. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, he does have Isaiah Thomas, right?
Yeah, like,
I mean,
what is the coach do? Like, listen, we're playing basketball.
He gonna be like, yo,
we're
we
out there,
tryna-
we're hooping, we're playing basketball.
Okay.
We're gonna play, but I'm
So
just saying, like,
why is
I'm
it
gonna
a
be
problem if
throwing
I'm
more
trying to
no
play hard?
looks than usual. I might throw out the glass or something crazy. I'm gonna go out there, have fun, and try to win. But you gonna be out there.
trying to win.
Yeah,
win.
Sean. That's fun. We got Davion before, and he hasn't met Gary Payton, and he doesn't really know Gary Payton's game, except for the fact that he's a glove and that he's like a great defender. And I'm like, well, are you going to learn how to talk like Gary Payton? Because that's all Gary Payton did was talk trash the whole time. And Davion's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to add that. And I'm like, when we were done and he was walking away, I'm like, I want to see you like in the gym, like working out by yourself, because that's all he does. He works out nonstop, but like literally screaming and talking trash the whole time. Like, I just like, I want to see you practice talking trash, because to me, that would be a joy to watch. Davion, like, you know, trying to feel it out, like, you know, talking smack while he's sitting there playing, like running up and down the court by himself and shooting shots by himself or making moves. To me, that would just be a joy. Like,
It's funny.
the making of a trash talker.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that, because we got into the discussion about Tyrese talking all the time, Davion not really talking as much, and they got into the discussion of trash talking, and Davion said the one time I trash talked was against Jamias Ramsey in college in Texas Tech, and he said he went off and made him a better. His point was sometimes trash talking makes the other player, the opposition, better. And he talked about when he faced Jamias Ramsey in college at Texas Tech, and he says, yeah, and then he went off and started giving it to me. So he's like, it doesn't work very well for him. So I guess you got to pick and choose your battles, right?
I love trash talking. I've always been a trash talker. Like, I played volleyball for years. I played doubles for years. That's literally all you do. Like, you know, you just talk smack the whole time. But some guys got it and some guys don't. And I think that Ty is a guy that's probably like, he's given little barbs here and there. He's talking a little bit, but it was only going to get better as he went on, and it's only going to get better as he gets on in his career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like Sean, I can't wait to see it. So make sure that you guys are watching out for that, you know, and also remember that, like, Sean is getting great content. Like, make sure you're following his work at ABC 10. No, I mean, really,
Appreciate
like
that.
You've been doing this for a long time, and like I didn't go sit with those guys and do a one-on-one, mainly because like the video aspect of it has so much more value than writing a story, and you can't capture the nuances of that, the banter and stuff when you're just writing a story. Like, that would not play out in a Q&A. And
Right.
so the good thing is you had Kevin there. You were able to get high value content and you know, good video and everything. It looks great. So I'm excited to watch the whole thing. I'm going to get to something that Adrian Wojnarowski put out. And I'm going to call this Tuesday Overreactions.
It could be. It definitely could be.
Like
It certainly qualifies, right? I mean,
for
my
all of
gosh.
you out there who that watched Sesame Street when you were young, there's a guy named Don Piano that always tried to do row, row, row your boat on the piano, and then he would not be able, he'd hit the wrong key, and then he'd like bang his head on the piano. I feel like Don Piano when I hear the comment that Adrian Wojnarowski said about this deal, that rival executives around the league, all of them, Sean, everyone said, oh, if we would have known that Tyrese Haliburton was available, then we would have made an offer. Okay, so I'm gonna break this down. Number one, the Kings did everything but put a sky, like the plane, the Skyriders, out saying that everyone was available. Like Adrian Wojnarowski told everyone that everyone on the Sacramento Kings was available. I not only said that everyone was available, I started naming names so people understood that when I said everyone is available, it doesn't mean that a dude with the name everyone on the back of his jersey is available. It means that every single person is available. Rashawn Holmes, Harrison Barnes, Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Haliburton. Now, we got to the point where it was like, we want to kind of build around Tyrese, and we want to build around De'Aaron Fox. But Sean, I have a real problem with this because I'm pretty sure I'm just going to flip this trade around and I'm going to say, does everyone in the league have a 25-year-old two-time All-Star that they're willing to trade for Tyrese Haliburton, and I'm going to make you take on 2 years of Buddy Hield's contract? All right, ready? Go. Give me a 25-year-old All-Star, two-time All-Star, and not only will I take Tyrese Haliburton, I will also take $40 million in Buddy Hield.
Well,
Which team is that, Sean?
And every team that was talking about the asking price would have been higher. That's why I'm so impressed by this trade. Like, you can certainly look, if you want to tell me that Tyrese Haliburton is untradeable and you don't trade him and you shouldn't have made this deal. Okay, I'm with you. I'll believe that. Like I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But if you're telling me you traded him and you landed a two-time All-Star, and with due respect to Buddy and Tristan, like those are ancillary moves because they were already. Let me put it to you this way, James. Let's pretend the Lakers trade goes through. Would you rather have Montrezl Harrell and Kyle Kuzma, or would you rather have Domantas Sabonis?
I'd rather have Domantas Sabonis. Yep. No,
So,
I mean, look,
and again, I'm not saying like
the Kings
like
just got off of $40 million. They got off of $40 million.
They did. I mean, you have to move somebody to make something. And again, if whatever executives that Woj is talking, look, he's well connected. I'm not trying to say anything or dispel whatever anything he's saying. I truly believe he believes what he's saying based off what he's heard. But ask yourself, whoever you're listening to, if they didn't know Tyrese Haliburton was available or could be had, or like you didn't make a call to Sacramento because maybe they did make a call to Sacramento and said, we're not interested in trading Tyrese Haliburton. It's either because sorry, this phone, man. It's either because you didn't have enough, or at the time there wasn't a deal to be had. Like, this is something that didn't just come out of thin air. Although I do believe that as of yesterday, and so they probably weren't going to trade Tyrese, but obviously something changed today and maybe last night. To where things, and that's literally how things go when the trade deadline comes around. Sometimes teams get desperate. What if the ultimate, maybe they had a deal on the table, guys, and there was a first round pick in there, and the Kings kept saying, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. And then ultimately the Pacers call back today or late last night and say, all right, we're willing to move off the first round pick. This is the deal we want. We like Haliburton. We want Haliburton. And then finally they look around and they go, okay. I haven't talked to Monty McNair publicly like that yet, and hopefully we can have some sort of conversation publicly, privately, whatever, to have some sort of clarification, some context there. If he shows his hand, which maybe he won't. But I'm sure we're going to hear from him. We have to hear from him at the trade deadline, so he will be asked at what point did Tyrese Haliburton become available? At what point did this start to look like a move that was going to be made?
And Sean, I'm just going to point out that what people, I don't know that they're listening. This probably isn't the only trade. And so when you take on this deal, it could be because you have another deal that's coming that makes this deal make even more sense.
Possibly. And we should, we should caution. We should caution because it's possible it doesn't. But it's not. But again, we knew that Sacramento is among the most aggressive teams out there looking to make a deal work.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say Tuesday overreactions. It's not my overreaction. It's really the overreaction to the situation. Like,
yeah,
what else was someone else going to offer? Like, look around the league. We can figure out who's around a 25-year-old, two-time All-Star. Was there another trade out there, especially one where they would take back Buddy Hield? And I'm going to tell you that I don't think I can find that trade. I don't think I can find that deal out there because I'm pretty sure that the Ben Simmons sweepstakes was a lot higher than Tyrese Haliburton and Buddy Hield and Tristan Thompson. I'm going to guarantee you it was higher than that. And so it is what it is. Like, the Kings took on less money. I mean, they literally saved money in this deal.
Right. That's the part that is wild, especially when you look at Jeremy Lamb's expiring contract.
$10.5 million.
And Justin Holiday is essentially a cheaper. Now, granted, I'm not trying to compare him to Buddy, but look at the money that comes off with Buddy Hield. And when you have Justin Holiday, who's under contract for next season,
That's
not a bad player,
yeah.
not a bad player at all. Can help out some playmaking even from a two-guard standpoint. Look, I get it. And again, like, I'm not here to say whether or not this is a good move or a bad move. Like, to me, it's a move that certainly is risky, but they all have risk to them, James. All these, I guess you can go back to the Chris Webber trade and say that one didn't have much risk to it because you had, you had Mitch Richmond and Otis Thorpe who were on the definite downside of their career, and you landed an all-star. That was a coup of a deal for Sacramento. I wouldn't call this one a coup, but has potential. It certainly has potential to be, and it's the type of move that was worth risking, in my opinion, especially considering that when you don't have to give up those picks. Yeah, I mean, look, Tyrese that's a tough one to see walk out the door. It really is, James. But I'll go back to what I said just weeks ago, all throughout the greater past month, which is, again, you could argue his value will never be higher. And even if he goes off and ascends to be this star, which I don't think most people are predicting that he will, but sure, let's pretend he does. It makes Sacramento better, I think, in the now to have a all-star caliber player paired with De'Aaron, who they're already invested to, and we'll see what Thursday happens, whether he's here or not. But if he is, they're doing a double down on Fox. They still believe in Fox. Let's see it. It is amazing to see how quickly some people can turn on some of these players. And I will remind people, I've said this before, Kings fans have a interesting way of turning on the perceived best player. It happens every step of the way, no matter if they're good teams or bad. I remember people who were fed up with Weber. I remember people who were fed up with, Kevin Martin, Tyreek Evans. It just happens. DeMarcus Cousins for sure, right? Mitch Richmond even. I mean, we the way that whole thing played out. So it's interesting. The best player always is the most polarizing. Sometimes the best player shouldn't be worthy of being called the best player, but this is where we're at. And now you've got a brand new best player, and it's Domantas Sabonis, and he gets to be paired with De'Aaron Fox and take a lot of pressure off his shoulders, I think, also in doing so, if De'Aaron is here beyond Thursday.
Okay, so I'm going to bring up something our friend Jason Wise tweeted out. Jason Wise, who's worked for the Kings forever, he works in the digital side, and he's a huge Kings fan. Like, he lives and breathes by the Kings, and he works for the franchise. But he tweeted out earlier today, fans were upset when the Kings traded Mitch Richmond for Chris Webber. They were upset when the Kings gave Vlade Divac a massive, I think it was a 7-year contract. The Kings fans were horribly upset when the franchise traded Jason Williams for Mike Bibby. Like, this is what happens. Like, players come and they go, and sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. I mean, there's no way in my mind that Tyrese Haliburton wasn't going to not work out here. He was going to work out. It's just a level of how how high his ceiling was, and we don't know what that is. I mean, I'll tell you this: the guys that I compare him, the basketball IQ, the way he moves the ball, the way he attacks, it reminds me of Steve Nash. It reminds me of players like Chris Paul. Just the intelligence that he has on the court. That doesn't mean he's going to reach that height, but like I think he's a brilliant basketball player, and I think he was only going to get better. I also think that Sabonis is a stud, and people are going to love him.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that we maybe haven't even touched on, Sabonis is the dude who will not take anything. Like, he's a tough dude. This is one of those guys that you are missing. He's a bona fide, like, road grader. And you now have options, right? So we've talked about the potential for Harrison Barnes to get traded, like, at any time. Well, maybe you don't trade Harrison Barnes. Maybe you try to find a small forward, and you can move Harrison Barnes over to the 4 full-time, and he can be a stretch 4 with a guy who averages 12 rebounds a game and will be dominant. Maybe you can find a stretch 4, and you can keep Harrison Barnes at the 3. Like, this opens up different options what you had earlier in the week. And I think right now, the Kings just landed an all-star. And whether you love the deal or you hate the deal, you have to understand that they haven't had one since Cousins left, and they didn't have one before that since I think it was 2003 when Peja and Brad Miller made it. Like, this is an all-star. This is a guy who can come in, and he's a better player than anyone else that you have. He is, without any question, today, the best player in this trade.
Facts.
Right?
I mean, yeah, no lies detected there, James.
No lies detected. I've been brutal over the last few days. Like, not only I was brutal on the radio on Monday.
Why?
About the Kings. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then I did you read my Sunday musings?
I did.
Yeah, I kind of took the gloves off there too. Like, have they? I want to see them do, like, find a player to build around them. And in all honesty, I don't think that they've done that with De'Aaron Fox. And, like, we can argue back and forth, but I think that this is a step in the right direction if they do, in fact, keep De'Aaron Fox, which we think they will, but there's no guarantee between now and Thursday. But Sean, like, basketball isn't like some mystical, like complex thing. It can be complex, but like when you have a speedster like De'Aaron Fox, you need to surround him with, like, I understand the Marvin Bagley selection. What they thought they were getting was a like elite level scoring big, a 20 and 10 guy who could keep up and run the floor with De'Aaron Fox. But outside of that move, I really do have a tough time, like, pointing to, especially in the last 2 years, any way, shape, or form that you did anything to make De'Aaron Fox a better player.
I mean, I don't know. I think the effort was there. I think you could say the execution could be sloppy. I mean, I think, like it or not, re-signing Rashawn Holmes was definitely a piece that they projected to be building around De'Aaron. That was re-signing. That wasn't, It was, but re-signing, I mean, keeping people in Sacramento is a big deal. Like, it can't go unnoticed. I think, prior ownership, prior front office, Vlade Divac, I think, tried to do more through the draft. Obviously, he shipped a franchise center out of town, which got you De'Aaron Fox, and he wanted to build around Fox and Buddy and Bagley, and that obviously just didn't work. So, I get what you're saying. I do think, like, when I read it, I felt like it was a little bit of a compounding of issues. Like, it's not fair because I don't think you necessarily did this, but I think fans can read this and realize that you have so many issues going on this season. And I don't think, look, I don't like to use this as like, puffing my chest out and saying, haha, I was right. Because I'm wrong a lot. But when it comes to this season, I didn't think they'd be very good. But I didn't think it would look like this. I didn't think it would be this bad. I didn't think you'd have so many issues, right? So I think a lot of it just compounds upon itself. And then when you start making a mountain out of a molehill or something like that, it's just, I think people are making too much out of the De'Aaron Fox situation. I mean, clearly I can see why the conspiracy theory tinfoil hat thing goes that way. But the reality is it could be just he has a bad ankle still. There is pain there. And again, I've used evidence of moments in Kings history where injuries weren't quite what they appeared to be. And certainly, like I said before, like maybe this comes out and there's something there. There's inflammation, maybe whatever. He meets with a specialist later on. Who knows? Fact of the matter is he's not playing. It's due to soreness. He's putting it upon himself. I mean, the team is literally saying, we think he's fine. MRI is fine. De'Aaron comes out and says, no, I'm experiencing pain. Okay, well then, like, he's making himself look like the one who can't handle the pain, so he's only hurting himself in that regard, right? It's not like the team is trying to cover up anything there. Like if he was really being shopped, for example, or really like part of a deal and we're just going to sit him out, why would I put him in the position to go out there and hurt his own value by saying he can't handle this ankle pain, that he's plagued with this ankle pain?
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, what I'm getting at is I feel like so many things have compounded, and I feel like to the instance of they haven't done enough to build around De'Aaron, I would agree with you. I would agree with you that there hasn't been that moment, and I would point to this offseason as being a tremendous letdown as a result of that, and we've talked about that ad nauseum.
And last offseason.
Yeah. And then
last offseason they did nothing.
Yeah. And so what I will say is this is a 2-year, almost little over 2, whatever it is, for this front office group. The sins before them, you could argue fall on them because there are some decision makers that are still in the room, particularly in ownership and things of that nature. But again, like, they're not the ones that have been out 15 years. So their day started at day 0 when they extended De'Aaron Fox as essentially their first move. You could argue that was a no-brainer, but it's still a move that they get credited for. So I don't know, man. Like, this would obviously fly in the face of what you just said, because they just built around De'Aaron Fox, and unless they move him on Thursday or later this offseason or during the draft, whatever, there's a new sheriff in town, and his name is Domantas Sabonis, and there's no longer a head of the snake. There's a new head of the snake, and it could be a 2-headed snake.
A 2-headed snake. Sean said it.
Is that a hydra? Is that a hydra?
No, I think a hydra is a 3.
I have no idea what a hydra is, to be honest.
The 3-headed hydra. Yeah. So I'll say this. Like, look. Like,
it is 3.
We can't just say that they just did it, because they just wasted a year and a half to do it. Like, I get it. They did do it, but they may have accomplished this amazing thing. But at the same time, they just wasted a lot of time to get to this point. And I'll go back to not this summer, but the summer before, which was abbreviated. It was tough. But when Glenn Robinson III, no disrespect, and Hassan Whiteside, who doesn't fit this team at all, are your only 2 free agent acquisitions, and you walk into the season without enough players at all to fill out a roster. Like, you had so many players that weren't NBA players at all. And then you go through the whole season, you make some like small moves at the deadline to kind of change things. Like, when I know that they chased Derek Jones Jr., not this last offseason, but the one before, right? That's a deal that makes sense. That is a player, the style of player that makes sense to put next to De'Aaron Fox. Glenn Robinson maybe could have been that, but not only did you not play him or give him an opportunity to become that, you bailed on it so quick that it was crazy. But he just was like a really low budget version of what you need. Like, again, Mo Harkless is a perfectly fine player, but you need players like Mo Harkless that are better than Mo Harkless as well. Like, Mo Harkless can be part of a rotation, but you can't go into a season without a true, like, stretch 4, or if Harrison Barnes is your stretch 4, you didn't backfill the 3 so he could move over and play that position. And then you also came into the season with 5 centers on the roster, and Marvin Bagley, who realistically is a center, and Chimezie Metu, who is a guy coming off a two-way. Like, you didn't do enough. And the other thing is you also drafted point guards, your one position of strength, 3 times in a row. Well, 2 times in a row.
Well, and again, I point to what Vlade did with with DeMarcus Cousins.
It was horrible.
And again, you kept draft. That's why I said, like,
why are you drafting Willie? Why are you drafting Yorgos?
Yeah, but again, here you are with De'Aaron, who isn't quite DeMarcus at the time, because at least De'Aaron was not an all-star. But you bring in two guards, in a position you felt you pretty much handled. Again, they went best player available. I give them that. But now you've got movable pieces. You have optionality. And James, you mentioned Glenn Robinson III. I had to look it up. He's not even in the league, bro.
No, he's not in the league. I don't think Jabari Parker's in the league anymore.
He's 28 years old, and he's not in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, he had a little bit of a different path to, G League and stuff like that, but not in the league.
No.
But that's we've seen that a lot. We've seen that film before, James, where we see people who leave the Kings and are no longer NBA basketball players.
Okay, but Justin James is also not in the league. He's in the G League. And DeQuan Jeffries, he's no longer in the league. And, like, we can keep going. I mean, Kyle Guy was part of that. Chemezi Metu was a two-way player that got elevated. Wenyen Gabriel is no longer in the league. Like, these are the pieces.
Boy.
Boy. We just got the same Washington Wizards all-star guard, Bradley Beal, plans to undergo season-ending surgery on his left wrist. Oof. That's a team that was all in on Sabonis. Look at that. That was a good one, Sean. I like that. Okay, so, Sean, we got to wrap up here pretty quick. We're going to be a little bit shorter today. We're going to have another pod on Thursday. It's going to be, I don't know how we're going to fit it in. It's going to be a flaming hot Cheeto day on Thursday. Like,
can we do it like at 10 o'clock at night?
Yeah, like, we're going to have to wait and figure out what happens here. This is absolutely crazy where we're at. But we got to get to the business of basketball.
Oh, boy, I almost forgot.
And I'm just going to throw it out there. We saw the De'Aaron Fox. I mean, not the. Jesus, that's twice I've thrown his name out there for no reason. We saw the DeMarcus Cousins All-Star Weekend thing where, like, Chris Clark whispered in his ear, and he got the classic Boogie smirk. Is this the biggest surprise trade that you've seen since you've been around the Kings?
Since I've been around the Kings, well, it is, because you just got an All-Star for essentially. I mean, I don't want to call Tyrese and Buddy nothing. I don't want to say that, but you a lot less than what I thought.
Would you feel more comfortable if you said they got Domantas Sabonis for Buddy Hield and the 12th pick in the 2020 NBA draft?
I guess, yeah. I mean, I guess that's one way of saying it. But the biggest surprise, the Weber trade was still pretty crazy. At the way it happened, I remember there were people who kind of wanted to see that play through. I know Weber he wasn't ready to be traded, and had they not traded him the next year, they go after Artest. It would have been I know Weber was broken. I'm not trying to, people are, I know, probably hitting me right now, like, oh, you're too close to your boy. But yeah, I mean, it would have been kind of cool to see Webb with like Artest if they made that trade the next year or whatever. That would have been kind of fun. But that was it. I mean, it was a surprising trade. I will say the Artest trade was not surprising because you heard about it for damn near 2 years.
Yeah, I think that's where the Cousins trade.
I mean, the Cousins trade
because
is
it unfolded.
Yeah,
it unfolded so quickly. I think the Rudy Gay trade really did come out of left field. Like, all of a sudden, like,
when he was traded to Sacramento.
Yeah. Like, holy cow, they just traded for Rudy Gay. Like, he expired. Like, his contract expired in Sacramento, I believe.
Right.
But yeah, he was one of those guys that was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. And to be honest with you, I like it. Like, that, I thought that was
I loved that trade. Loved that trade. I would say probably the Cousins trade is a little bit more because, granted, for all the behavior, and it probably shouldn't have been, but you were trading an all-star out of town, after legitimately people in the organization were the ones to tell us that they're the ones that are going to give him the max. And some of the tip of the iceberg, I guess, things that have happened were really quite nothing in the grand scheme of like everything. So at that time, he was the best big man in the league. He was a perennial all-star. He was the only identity your team had. It was. I think that was, and especially to happen at the All-Star game, that's got to be the most surprising trade, James. I mean, that to me is the most surprising trade.
I'm going to tell you why this trade here is not the most surprising, just in case you don't understand that. It's not the most surprising because with Tyrese Haliburton, this team was horrible on the roster. They're 20 and 35 or 20 and 30, whatever it is they are, 20 and 36, 20 and 35. They're bad. Yeah. And this season has spun out of control. It's so dysfunctional. It feels so much worse than most of the seasons that I've covered, because when a team doesn't have enough talent, that's one thing. And like, you can see when a team doesn't have enough talent to survive. When you can see holes in their roster, when you can look around and say you don't have a small forward who's above 6'5", and that's going to be a problem, especially in a league where LeBron James and Kevin Durant and like all these players play the small forward position, you're in trouble. Like, that's just not what this season was. Do I think that the Kings walked into this season with enough talent to be a 5 seed? No. But they should not be this bad at this point in the season where we are right now. And so at that point, everything should be on the table. And that's why you shouldn't be surprised, because we saw this. Everything should have been on the table.
And we've been saying that. And to our credit, we've been saying that. But I will say, I understand the fans who are up in arms over, and I'm not saying all fans, because again, it's not all fans, but those that have voiced their concern over losing Tyrese Haliburton, while this team sucks, he's one of the guys you wanted to build around. I get it, but this was a deal that, in my opinion, was worth the risk. And these are the types of deals you have to make if you're Sacramento. You have to swing for the fences. You have to. And I credit Monty McNair for being bold enough to do it, especially without having to give up a first-round pick. That's amazing, James. They can still go out and move their first-round picks among their best assets now. I wouldn't call it their best. I used to call it their best asset. I don't know that it is anymore. Is it?
Over Sabonis?
I know, that's what I'm saying. Sabonis is a hell of an asset.
No, that's your best asset. But your second best asset is your first round pick.
Is your first round picks. Yeah. So and you still have those, and you can definitely move those. Imagine what 2 first round picks could get you. We always say it. I mean, you look at, man, I don't know, man. There's some possibilities out there. And if I'm Monty McNair, I'm calling Woj to let him know everyone's available. Woj, if you want to tell those executives everyone's available, please do.
We had T-shirts made basically that said everyone is available.
We said it was a yard sale, but it wasn't an estate sale. So
yeah, like if you weren't listening, this is what we meant. Like that nothing was off limits. And like, look, I feel for Kings fans. You're going through the 7 stages of grief. I get it. But you'll get there, and then you'll move on, because I don't think this is one of those deals that you're just going to turn around and go, that was the worst mistake they ever made. And I think that there are still opportunities for the Kings to make worse moves that would make you go, oh, I can't believe they just did that. This wasn't one of them. Just got to really, really, you got the best player in the trade.
And I'd also point out to those fans that are super negative or whatever that are trying to find a glimmer of hope, like Sabonis was a 2-time All-Star in a small market.
Wow.
I mean, think about that. I know the East is a lot different, a lot historically, especially over the past 5 years. But yeah, man, think about that. Like, he's coming to another small market, and there's some good bigs in the West, but he's among them. And that'll be fun to see how things shake out in the years to come. And 25 years old. Yeah.
Now you got someone to go battle. You got someone that brings his hard hat every single game. I'm intrigued. I can't wait to see how it plays out on the court. We don't know when Sabonis will be in a Kings uniform. Certainly won't be on Tuesday night. There's always a possibility that he'll somehow fly in and that the trade will get figured out before Wednesday, but there's a good chance it probably won't be until later in the week. But we're going to have you covered. So make sure you're tuning in. One last, sort of make sure you're hitting a thumbs up. Make sure you're hitting the subscribe button. We're in a race to 1,000. Make sure you go to the Kings Beat, and so this gets dropped right into your email box as soon as it goes live, every single podcast. And make sure you jump on board for a premium subscription, because we're about ready to do another happy hour, and I'm lining up a guest. There we go. So, Sean, any final thoughts?
My story was ruined, James. Ruined. I had such a great story
Ruined.
on deck. But now I get to show the interview, and, I think you can still have fun with that. But my whole story, kaput.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's make sure you're tuning into Sean's story, because he put a lot of work into that, and to be honest with you, you're still going to love Tyrese Haliburton no matter where he's at. He's one of those players. You're going to check the box score. You're going to check the box score every day to make sure you know how Tyrese Haliburton's doing.
James, by the way, Chris Duarte and Tyrese Haliburton together.
That's still going to be a bad team.
For now. And
But,
so are the Kings. And so are the Kings, by the way.
Don't forget, Sean, they got Buddy Hield.
They got playmaking, though.
All
Buddy
right.
Hield will be fine, James. He'll be a fine player.
All right. Yeah, now he's in a backcourt with Malcolm Brogdon, Tyrese Haliburton, Chris Duarte. Yeah, going to have to find minutes for Buddy Hield again.
Catch and shoot, buddy.
That's right. All right. Well, thank you for tuning into the Kings Beat podcast. We will be back on Thursday for another what should be crazy show. There's always an outside chance that I'll be able to stream it, but I don't know if that's going to happen, if I can come up with the technological understanding to do that. So you're probably going to have to wait
a
until we're
YouTube
done
seminar.
recording. Yeah, this is something. And also,
by the way, does Kyle Draper look like he's a little emotional?
Oh, Kyle, Kyle.
He look like right here, right when he starts, just gulp. I love Kyle.
I do too. And I'm going to mention one last thing before we get off the air. The Kings Beat for premium subscribers, you're about to get a link to the new Discord channel. And so for those of you out there that don't understand Discord, I don't either, but it's okay. We're going to fight through this together. What it will be is it'll be our own community where we can communicate all the time, and where you'll get your information fed as well. So it should be a good spot to kind of sort of foster a different type of community that we're building here on the Kings Beat. So for ABC 10 Sean Cunningham, I am James Ham. We'll see you on Thursday.